Hi, I'm Julie Tam, managing broker of LYN REALTY in Houston, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me for my Smarter Real Estate Weekly Wednesday video series, where I take you on some of my real estate adventures and arm you with practical strategies so you can be a smarter buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord. All right, I'm gonna cross the street here and take you through a place where I spent 4 years of my life, which is Rice University, earning my bachelor's degree in economics. The topic today is actually connected to economics, and it's about why the housing supply is so low across the US in individual local markets. And today I'm going to talk specifically about Texas, but really a lot of this information applies in a lot of local markets across the country and just nationally as a whole. And it has to do with supply and demand, which of course is what economics is all about, or at least part of economics is about. Fortunately, I'm actually in one of the safest places in Houston during this COVID-19 pandemic, which is Rice, because they have strict rules about wearing your mask and social distancing at all times, even outside, except for when you're eating or drinking. And so they've kept their positivity rates very low at less than 1% pretty consistently. And, you know, it's the positivity rate, of course, as you might know, is the percent of people who are testing positive for COVID out of those who are getting tested. And Houston has been struggling, you know, with fluctuations during the pandemic and peaks. And, you know, we've made the news, and that's not a good reason to make the news. So anyway, I am wearing a mask for that reason. The reason why, there are several, that housing supply is experiencing a shortage and has been throughout the pandemic, which has just dragged on for several months now, are the following. First of all, home builders. They had experienced shutdowns, just like a lot of other industries. So not only was their labor not able to work at construction sites in some locales, but also there were supply shortages because manufacturing had slowed down or taken a complete halt for various raw material building supplies. Lumber in particular has seen a large increase in price, which has resulted in price increases for home builders acquiring the lumber, which they're then passing down to the buyers buying those homes that are being built. And recently, though, there's been a little bit of relief on that front where lumber prices have started to come back down again, but there's a trickle-down effect that takes a little bit of time, and it doesn't really reach the consumer as fast as the consumer would like. The second reason is that land prices have been rising already, even before the pandemic. Obviously, as more land is being built on, it gets more expensive, particularly getting closer to the urban core of cities. Of course, now people are wanting to move to the suburbs more so because they want more space for reasons like they want a larger yard, maybe to install a pool, a place to spend time outdoors and away from others. They may want extra space inside the home because they have perhaps people who are trying to work from home, do Zoom meetings, kids who are, you know, having online education at home. And so they just want to be able to spread out so that people can have their own space and not deal with noise from each other and get on each other's nerves, right? And they just want more space inside, maybe to have areas for play, right? To get a pool table or, you know, other indoor recreational things. And so the suburbs is a place that can do that. But with the land prices going up everywhere, this is a trend that's affecting folks and causing a shortage in the housing supply. And so home builders, you know, they're having a harder time making a profit on homes and you know, trying to buy land in order to build on those. Third thing is more millennials have entered the housing market. So I don't remember if I mentioned earlier in this video, but this data is coming from the Texas A&M Real Estate Center, Texas A&M University. So millennials, yes. So a lot of millennials are now entering the market, so they're becoming competitors to buy homes, right? If you have more people wanting to buy homes and you don't have more homes to meet that demand, then you're going to have a shortage in supply. The fourth thing is that prospective home buyers aren't really as affected by the pandemic as are renters. So renters tend to work in lower income, perhaps manual labor jobs that are forcing them to actually go to work, and, you know, perhaps restaurants and retail and places like that. And with some of these shutdowns and layoffs, and furloughs affecting folks in those types of jobs that are, in those industries that are suffering from the pandemic, then those people, are having trouble paying their rent. But primarily homeowners are not as affected negatively because they are working typically higher skilled jobs that involve technology, where they can keep their jobs, they can work from home, they don't have to go in to somewhere, and therefore their business isn't as negatively affected by the pandemic, and they can keep their jobs. And millennials fall into this category in large part. And so you have the competition from fellow home buyers who are able to buy and afford to buy homes, less competition among renters, especially of, less expensive homes. And so there you go. All right. The fifth thing is new preferences are being created during this pandemic. So folks, as I mentioned, wanting to move out to the suburbs, and having those home offices and outdoor spaces is creating more competition in the suburbs as well. And a couple of the final things, one is historically low interest rates. So of course, that becomes very attractive and makes sense for someone wanting to get a mortgage on a home. Final thing is home prices just keep rising. And so it is becoming more difficult to jump into the market, especially at the higher price point, because the prices are getting so high. And in areas where, you used to be able to find more affordable homes, like Houston, it's becoming less and less affordable over time. So how do we solve these problems, and is there any relief in sight? Well, I mentioned about lumber prices seeming to come down. I think I mentioned that. I've mentioned a lot of things. So, with lumber prices coming down, that's going to help with home prices as well, to give buyers some relief. But there's a bit of a lag whenever the raw material prices come down as to when it actually gets passed on to the builder and then the consumer ultimately. And so there is going to be some time where you're still going to see high prices, right? I'm actually dealing with that right now with a set of clients trying to build a rather expensive home with a home builder, and those raw material prices having gone up since the time when they bought their lot and were about to build. But unfortunately, that was right before the pandemic hit. And then now that they've been looking at how the pricing has, gone up and then down a little bit, and trying to see, okay, when is it that I can really jump in and build in a not as expensive way. And so, yes, that's definitely a concern. And, as we see hopefully some relief with vaccines on the way and, the pandemic perhaps lifting, then, maybe things will get a little bit more back to normal. But certainly people know that the pandemic, this one time is not the only time we're going to see a pandemic. There's certainly going to be another one on the horizon. It's not about if, but when. And so, they're going to be prepared. And so I think more folks will still want to move to the suburbs to get that space and be ready for the next time we have to hunker down. Of course, though, Americans tend to have short-term memory. And so I think some people will, think, well, I still want to be near the center of things and the center of the action. I'm kind of tired of being away from everybody. I want to be near restaurants and theater and other entertainment and experiences. So maybe living near town is the answer to that. So who knows? It remains to be seen. No one can predict the future. We all just kind of study our trends and see what we think might happen. And, it's like looking to the skies. The pun there. Here's the Terrell Sky Space, a beautiful piece of outdoor art on the Rice University campus. Anyway, I thank you for watching. Please follow and like and subscribe on Facebook and YouTube, wherever you're watching. I welcome your feedback, comments, questions, ideas for future episodes. You tell me, what is it that you want me to talk about? What do you want to see? What do you want to learn? This channel is for you. Thank you, and I hope you have a great week and a great holiday season. Bye-bye now.